What's going on? Welcome to tonight's show. We are once again talking about The Sopranos. Hey, wait, hey, Uncle June, Christopher, what the fuck, Christopher? What's going on? What are you doing? Come on, man, get your head out of your ass. um, I'm still working on that. I'm gonna get better. I promise. I'm gonna get better at my Tony Soprano. It's taking me some time to figure it all out, make it all happen, get it all working, yada yada yada. I'm actually right now. I'm almost at the end of season 4, and I had to like put a pause in it for a second because I was like, damn, dude, like I need to keep up with this thing. I don't know why I do this stuff to myself. I set these Herculean tasks for myself when it comes to doing live shows. You know, I commit. It's like when I do the 31 days of Halloween every year, and every year I'm like, this is the last year. I'm not doing this again. And then I find myself doing it all over again. And I said that I wasn't going to do it this year, although I think I might do it. So who knows? In any case, we are starting the contest. The contest is starting today. So stick around. At the end of this episode, I'm going to ask a trivia question. And if you send in your answer to frumessmail@gmail.com, you potentially could win a free t-shirt. You know, let my recorded version of me tell you more about it right now. I'm going to be doing a live show every single day. I'm going to be giving away a t-shirt. At the end of every episode, I will ask my trivia question. You will send your answer to frumessmail@gmail.com, and the first person to answer correctly will be the winner. You give me your name, your address, and your t-shirt size. If you are outside of the continental United States, you will have to cover shipping and handling. Join us night after night where I will be doing t-shirt giveaways. Who doesn't like a free t-shirt? I'm not going to go easy on any of you. I'm going to ask really hard questions. So be prepared. Whoa, that ended a lot sooner than I expected. I'm going to have to get used to that. I always feel like I have a minute when I do the Riot Stickers sponsorship, which will come a little bit later in the show. But let me digress, and let's just jump into this because we got a bunch to cover. So at the end of season 2, Big Pussy buys it, man. He finally gets found out. He gets whacked, and the guy, life moves on, and that really is that. Season 3 opens up with the FBI starting to really look into Tony Soprano's affairs. It's a great episode. You know, so often in The Sopranos, what makes The Sopranos so great is that each episode almost feels like the episodes are written so well. They're not, you know, it's funny. The show as a whole is not very cohesive, but on an episode by episode basis, they could all be mini movies, man. Like each one of these could be a movie, or just in the way that they're done. I can't explain it exactly, but basically what's happening is the FBI are trying to figure out what to do about Tony. You know, they've been listening to his phone calls for years, and they're ready to like double down. And you know, because they had recordings from Pussy, because Pussy was a informant. They're like ready to like, you know, really try and nail Tony down. They want to wire his house. So the whole episode is just a really great send up of, you know, I don't know, they use that retro like Car 54 Where Are You music, and they are trying to wire his house, and it turns into a whole like Mission Impossible style, you know, operation. Of course, as they say in writing, I'm going to butcher this. The Deus Ex Machina, which is the god in the machine, comes out of nowhere and foils everything because Tony's boiler explodes and floods the basement, and the device, which was in a lamp, gets moved, and it's whatever. Meadow, she also goes to Columbia University. She gets accepted. She goes to Columbia, and we meet her roommate, who's kind of like, I don't know. It's like a weird side plot that doesn't ever really go anywhere, other than she's just really annoying. I don't remember if it goes to her. Maybe it does a little bit later in the series, although nothing's happened in season 4, so I don't really know. We also meet Philly, who is what's his face's twin. Sorry, Patsy. Patsy is the twin of Philly. We meet him, and Patsy is suspecting that Tony might have had something to do with his twin brother's death. Eventually he comes to Tony's house drunk. He's planning on whacking Tony, and nothing ends up coming of it. He ends up just peeing in the pool. And Tony tries to come to him. He's like, "Hey, listen, the past is the past, okay?" Something like that. And trying to and Skip, the guy who is handling Pussy, he's gone. That's it. He's just end of the road for him. And that is that. We also, in the previous episode, we meet Danielle, who is going to be a big problem for Adriana. And really, at the end of the day, it is that's like the ultimate downfall of Adriana, is getting involved with her. Or maybe that happens. Does that happen at the end of season 3? Yeah, I think, man, I'm getting everything very confused. I think I'm getting everything very confused. Who knows? Who friggin' knows? Eventually, okay, this was a big episode. Eventually, Meadow brings home her soon-to-be boyfriend, who I actually find to be quite insufferable. He is just absolutely. He's like, I just want to punch this guy in the face. He is half black, half Jewish, overeducated Columbia student. His name is Noah. And Tony, this is the episode where we really get to see how truly racist Tony is. I mean, Tony is basically like, stay away from my daughter because you're black and Jewish or whatever, and I don't want anything to do with you near my daughter. He's super rude. And Noah storms out, and it becomes a whole thing between Tony and Meadow. It's just a huge point of contention for the rest of the season. And the thing is, and this is like a real turning point in the show, once again, where we're reminded that Tony is not a good guy. Tony is a murdering, philandering, racist, close-minded. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's kind of he's progressive. It's weird. It's so weird because in some areas of his life, he's very progressive, but then he's also like a racist, and he's very, very rude. Not rude. I mean, downright unconscionably nasty to this guy, Noah, who literally did, nothing, was nothing but nice. It's really sad. Noah turns out to be a dick, so it kind of all works out in the end. We also meet Ralphie somewhere around this time. Ralphie, played by Joey Pants, he probably most famous, not just for The Sopranos, but for the Misfits. Not the Misfits, the Matrix. He's in the Matrix. He plays the guy he's the Judas who betrays everybody because he wants to get plugged back into the Matrix. Ralphie is, again, much like Ralphie takes over the place of Richie Aprile. He becomes the new Richie Aprile, except he's a different kind of loose cannon. And in a way, just when you think like nothing could be worse than Richie, I mean, Ralphie is a monster. He's a monster. He's a monster in a way that's so monstrous. He's so monstrous as a human being that he makes Tony and Silvio and Paulie and all these other guys look like good guys, despite everything that we just said. And basically he sort of takes over. He basically takes over Richie Aprile's crew. He is the guy who's filling that area, and he's a great earner. He is a really, really, really great earner, and he becomes a problem, just a friggin' problem. Tony also visits with his mom, Livia. Remember, Tony last season Tony got in some hot water over some plane tickets that he gave his mom. Those were the plane tickets from Davy's business that he busted out. And Livia, he's mad at it. The last time he speaks to his mother, he's furious with her. And he asks Melfi, he's like, why can't I just have a level head with my mom? Why do I have to always unload on her? Why is it all so difficult with her? I mean, understandably so, considering she tried to have him killed. And then she has a stroke and she dies. And Tony is glad that his mom is dead. And, but at the same time, he's also a little conflicted. He tells Melfi that, that he's a bad son, as well as that he's glad that she's dead. Janice comes back into the picture. Remember, she left town after murdering Richie. She comes back. And, Janice is such a, she's such like a lofty, like breath of fresh air. It's characters like Janice and Paulie. They sort of bring this levity to what can sometimes be very grim business. I mean, there's some really dark episodes in season 3. I mean, things get really, really bleak, as we're about to talk about that sort of thing. Janice gets into it with Svetlana, who is the cousin of Tony. What's her name? Irina, who's Tony's ex-guma, right? And she has all, Olivia had given Svetlana all these records, and Janice is trying to get them back. And, they think that Janice wants to sell them or something. Who knows? It's never really explicitly said, although I don't blame Janice. I would want something as sentimental as that. It's not just the records, it's the music on the records. It's all of it's connected. So I do not begrudge that. Ryan saying she was hot. Who are you referring to, Ryan? Are you talking about Irina, the Guma? I don't know who you're talking. Are you talking about Svetlana with her one-legged Svetlana? So then, they have the wake and the funeral. They're having like the funeral services, and it's like a really awkward situation. Livia did not want anybody she didn't want anybody to fuss over her after she died. She didn't want a service. She didn't want a funeral, nothing. But all of her kids insist on doing so. And what ends up happening is they all meet, and it's like super awkward. And, they basically, they're all strained as they're trying to eulogize someone who didn't want to be eulogized, who didn't want anything really, just wanted to just be sort of buried and forgotten as well. Okay. You're talking about Irina and Svetlana as well. Janice eventually steals Svetlana's leg, trying to get the records back. It's a whole back and forth sort of thing. Christopher and Furio and Adriana, they're all getting loaded right before the service and just trying to like keep a cool head. Artie Bucco is like, sort of on the outs with his wife. Well, no, I don't think that happens yet. Sorry. It's all jumbled together, but Artie Bucco is around as well, sort of. But yeah, basically Artie Bucco is remembering what Tony did, burning down the restaurant and finding out from Livia. And, they're all trying to, play nice about Livia and remembering her. And it's finally Carmela, who's just like she was a miserable woman, and, really difficult to deal with. And there's a reason why she didn't want us to, do this sort of thing. Wow. Vaughn, everybody's got their preferences. Von Fett Miller is all about Artie's wife. I forget her name, with a C, I think. God, what is her name? I'm trying to remember what her name is. I don't remember. The other thing that happens too is that Ralphie is hoping to be made captain of the April crew now that Richie is gone. And Tony ends up passing over him well, that comes a little bit later. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Christopher Moltisanti gets becomes a made man. Finally, he gets his button. He's got to dress up, and we finally get to see the ritual of what happens when you become a made man, and you got to get dressed up really nice, and they burn a picture of a saint in your hands, and you take an oath that is the omerta, which is the oath of silence, upon silence under the threat of death, that you will not reveal this thing that we do. It's not, it's funny about these guys, these wise guys, these made men, whatever you want to call them. They and it's funny too. It's all like an order of protection. Everybody's under an umbrella that all falls under the boss. You pay tribute to the boss, and you in turn kind of become untouchable. And this is what Christopher goes through. And Tony has a plan for Christopher, as we're going to learn. And Tony, he's got ideas for Christopher, and that's why they've been slowly waiting, and now it's finally time. So they make him a made man. Chris kind of falls under Paulie's watch, and Paulie gives him his sports book business operation, and he's got to kick up to Paulie, he's got to kick up to Tony, and that it could be very lucrative. But Chris kind of makes some bad judgment calls, and he ends up sort of having to work twice as hard just to get everybody their money. And it turns into a whole thing. I love that show. Watch the whole series multiple times. This is my first time rewatching it since 2007. I thought it was 2006. It's actually 2007. We also see Jackie Jr. come back into play. And, Tony has tried to warn Jackie. He's like, Jackie, Jackie, stay away from that stuff. Jackie. Jackie thinks that it was Tony that had Richie killed. And Tony knows this, but he, denies that he had anything to do with Richie's disappearance, and basically says that Richie was an informant, just like with Big Pussy. And, that's what happens when you have to hit one of your guys and you can't let anybody else know. You just say they're an informant, because, like any other kind of circle, like whether it's a fundamentalist religion, like whatever it is, like a thing, in this case, it's you're part of a family until the day you die, that sort of thing. If you cross a line, then you're dead. You're dead to everyone. You're dead to the world. So the idea of becoming an informant and going to witness protection makes you dead anyway to everybody. So this is a very convenient thing for Tony to say to Jackie. And even though, Tony's trying to lead Jackie to stay in school and do the right thing, Jackie's, wants to follow in his father's footsteps. Jackie's father being Jackie Sr., who was, boss of the whole family. Tony was a captain, and Jackie was the acting boss. And then when he died of cancer, Tony, Junior, Uncle Zoom, assumed that position. And then eventually, but Tony was really running things. Tony's been running things, that kind of thing. But, Jackie Jr. just keeps flunking out of school. He's doing jobs with Chris. He's, trying to be a tough guy. He's selling ecstasy, and he also has his sights on Meadow. Meadow and Jackie are kind of vibing a little bit, but nothing's really going on because currently Meadow is with this guy, Noah, and she continues to give Tony the silent treatment. AJ also starts playing football, and he's making his father, father's really stoked that he's playing football. And he does something, he recovers a fumble, and it ends up turning him into a defensive captain. And friggin' Tony is super stoked about this. And we also find out that AJ has panic attacks just like his dad. And we also find out that Tony's father, Johnny, also had panic attacks. So it's something that runs in the family. And of course, Svetlana, she claims that she has the right to keep the record collection. Janice steals the leg. Svetlana tells Tony, who goes to meet her and say, hey, give up the records, and says, listen, these guys are these Russian Ukrainians, whatever, are not to be messed with. We also get to peek behind the veil. Tony, yeah, I agree, man. Noah was such a tool, dude. He was such a what a goofball. Von Fett Miller is lusting after everybody on The Sopranos, it seems. So basically we get to we peel back another layer of Tony's panic attacks, and we find out that Johnny had actually chopped off one of the pinkies of Mr. Satriel, the pork chop owner, and because over a gambling debt. And basically that's part of the source of Tony's attacks and stuff. So another piece of the layer is revealed. Johnny Sack, who's the underboss for Carmine in New York, he moves to New Jersey on behalf of his wife, Ginny, who is a very, very heavy set woman that everybody makes fun of for her weight, which is terrible. Tony is like wondering, is like, why didn't you move? Why didn't you tell me that you were moving to Jersey? It's weird. And not to worry, Johnny's like, not to worry, I'm not going to interfere in your business, that sort of thing. Russian thugs rough up Janice over the prosthetic leg, and she finds Jesus as a result. And that ensues some hilarity, and because she feels like she's hit rock bottom and she's born again. And so now she's going to give herself up to God. Ralphie starts dating Rosalie, which is Jackie April's, widow, Jackie Jr.'s mother. And he starts taking Jackie Jr. under his wing. They're collecting extortion money, and he's sort of giving him a taste of the life. Ralphie is just a bad dude all around. He's encouraging Jackie to give in to these urges to wanting to be a made guy. And it gives Jackie a taste of not just the life, but also death. Yes, Ralphie, this is also Ralphie is so insufferable because he just goes on and on about Gladiator. Nobody cares. And it's just so, it's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. And Melfi has gotten back together with, she was divorced, and she gets back together with her husband. And, the husband is along with her therapist are trying to stop Melfi from, treating Tony. They're like, why do you keep doing it? And, she thinks that she's not sure if she's been charmed by what she categorizes Tony as a sociopath. She's not sure, but she's gonna keep doing it. And that, she's walking alone. She's walking alone out from work in the parking garage, and she is assaulted. And she is assaulted in a way that, we'll say what it is. It's, the R word. It's brutal, man. They do not cut away. They show it happen. And it's like, it's horrible, man. And she's in this position. It's a real character defining moment because she has a dream about a dog mauling this guy because she finds out where he works and everything. And he basically, through a loophole, he's freed the guy who essayed her, who R'd her. And if you put two and two together, if you don't understand what I am speaking of, as she was accosted in that kind of way, can't say it on YouTube. She has a dream about a junkyard dog, and turns out, it's obviously a metaphor for the fact that she could sick Tony. All she's got to do to Tony, and it's interesting, Tony, who's such a gruff guy. He's such a gruff guy for so many reasons. He's super tender. He could tell she's really messed up over it. And he doesn't, it's moments like these where I'm like, oh, Tony's such a good guy. Like, I forget that he's like a monster because of the way he's so tender. Vaughn, me too, man. I wanted her to tell him. This could have been a movie. This is one of those episodes that I was talking about. That's an example of that should have been a friggin' movie. It's so good. Holy hell. And it's like this, will she, won't she? Is she going to tell Tony? Is she not going to tell Tony? What's the deal? And in the end, she realizes that she has this power. She has the power to exact wrath, and she has to basically, allow her morals to sort of allow her to rise above it all so that she can do the right thing. And in the end, she does the right thing. She doesn't tell Tony. I was really happy about that too, because it kind of would have been like a moment of darkness for her that she didn't need in her character arc. Melfi had been suggesting for Tony and Carm to come in together. They do, and it doesn't work out that well because Carmela thinks that Melfi and Tony are kind of like teaming up against her, that sort of thing. There's this whole thing with Tony and a cop who gets pulled over by this cop, and he tries to flash his PBA card. He tries to bribe him. Nothing works. So he goes to the assemblyman, Ronnie, who comes back later in season 4, a great episode with him in season 4. He goes to Ronnie to get it canceled, but Ronnie ends up getting this guy fired from the force. It's actually kind of really sad. Did you see the prequel of the series with JG's son? No, I have not watched it yet. I'm going to watch the prequel after I finished the series. I thought about watching it beforehand, and I said, no, you know what? I'm going to wait. We'll see what's up. Now, part of the reason why, Junior has been really distraught over Olivia dying. And part of it has to do with the fact, and there's, he's dealing with, whatchamacallit, like kind of like superstition. He finds out he's been diagnosed with stomach cancer, and, he was trying to figure out his friend. He has a friend who's Bobby Jr.'s, he's played by Burt Young. Great walk-on character. Burt Young comes into the thing. He plays Bobby Sr. And basically there's this whole thing. They set up this whole thing where there's this guy, Mustang Sally. He messes somebody up. He jacks someone up pretty bad. And there's a hit that's ordered on Sally. Sally's godfather is Burt Young, Bobby Sr., and he's also dying of lung cancer. And that's why Junior is so desperate to learn, because eventually he succumbs to his illness after he whacks Mustang Sally. It's a great scene, dude. He's like, he's been out of action for 8 years. He just wants to do this hit. He wants to do it. He knows he's dying of lung cancer. And in the end, Junior is desperate to know, did he die of stomach cancer, or did he die of his lung cancer? Did he die from the car accident? Because he thinks that the spirit of death is going to pass over him or possibly set his sights on him, depending, because death comes in threes, that sort of thing. And it's just a brilliant scene as you see this aging mobster guy, played by Burt Young, is just so great. I mean, it's a crime that Burt Young is not in more stuff. You might know him as Paulie from the Rocky movies. And he does the hit. He just barely manages to not just whack Mustang Sally, his godson, but also his friend, the house who he's hiding out at, or, the connection through which he's hiding out at. And it's great, man. It is really, really, really great. We also learn in this episode, at this time, that Artie is desperately in love with Adriana. I love Artie, man. Artie is a great, and this is something I didn't say in the first season that we went over. Artie at that time, or Artie is sort of the only semblance of conscience besides Carm, although Carm, Artie's like this like pure thing in these guys' lives, especially Tony. He's this pure, not only is he like all of them in that he's like this Italian guy that they grew up with, but he's not a made man. He's an outsider in that kind of way. And he is uncorruptible to many of the things that Tony and his crew are susceptible to. You know what I mean? And so he's like this, I don't know, he's this really wonderful presence. As I watch the series, I really love Artie, and I feel bad, even though he's married, he's miserably married. He doesn't like the wife that Von Fett Miller loves so much, who's been commenting about it. He doesn't love his wife, and he loves Adriana, who quits on the spot after a really profitable evening because friggin' Chris Moltisanti doesn't want Adriana working there anymore. He doesn't want her to be a hostess, and she's the best hostess that Vesuvio has ever had. And Artie is devastated because she loves him. He loves her. And he tries to open a bottle of wine with her. He's trying to kind of seduce her a little bit. But the thing that I love about Artie is that, like, he's not a total, like, he's definitely out of, like, not in her league and stuff. And, like, he's like bald and he's, middle-aged, but he's like such a good guy. He's like not creepy at all when he's like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe a woman, whoever might feel differently, but like, he's just such a good guy. Like, I didn't feel like what he was doing. He wasn't being creepy. He's not like a slime ball at all. He just is like, he's like a romantic man. I don't know. Maybe I got a soft spot for Artie. I just really love him. And I forget what happens to him. I don't remember him being around in season 6. So I don't remember. Yeah, right. Artie's wearing the earring. He gets the earring because he wants to look younger for Adriana. Also, this is where Artie is trying to go into business. He wants to turn Vesuvio into kind of like, the way like Paul Newman's dressing. He wants to have like except they want to use the, whatchamacallit, Santilli, whatever, the pork store as the name brand, that sort of thing, because Vesuvio sounds too much like vagina or something, according to Tony's market research. And, Tony wants to go into business with Artie selling these Italian food products. Charmaine, that's her name. Charmaine, she doesn't want to do it. She thinks it's a bad idea. Don't get involved with Tony. Don't get involved with the business. Up to this point, and that's going to change in season 4. Up to this point, Artie has not gotten into business with Tony or any, made men, and it's been good for him. It's been a good sort of thing, There's this whole incredible exchange between a drunk Artie, Chris, and Tony. They're all sitting at Vesuvio, and Artie just is relentlessly, just barbing Chris because, he's like, he doesn't want him to marry Adriana. He doesn't want him to be with Adriana. And Chris flies into a rage. He wants to kill Artie, and Tony stops him. And he tells him to never, ever say that, he's in love with Adriana because, that's a made man's girl. And whew, it's a whole friggin' thing. But it's sad. It's sad to see. And they go out to dinner and stuff, Artie and Adriana, like alone. And that's when you see Artie with the earring. It's just sort of sad to see like this unrequited love. And I do kind of love the relationship of Charmaine and Artie, their marriage is over and they're divorced, but they're still very much tied to the same business. And they have this like kind of, they don't like each other per se, but they have a partnership that allows them to be civil. And it's pretty interesting. Another interesting thing too with Bobby Sr., as he's dying of lung cancer, he can't stop coughing. He has this hacking cough, and it's like its own character. The hacking cough is its own character in the show, in the episode, and it's great. And it's sticky. And you know what else is sticky? Riot stickers. That's right. RiotStickers.com is the sponsor of the Frumess channel. Get Riot stickers for all your stickering needs. You can get 1,000 Riot stickers for $79. That's 7 cents per sticker, almost 8 cents, but we're going to say it's 7 cents. And these stickers are UV. These stickers have UV coating and vinyl. They're printed on vinyl, which makes them kind of waterproof. They're really, really great. And you can get 1,000 of them for 79 cents. You're not going to find a better deal. Link is down in the description. And at the end, we're going to ask our trivia question. Don't forget, we're doing our trivia question. First person to answer will get a free shirt. Answer correctly, mind you. You got to follow the instructions. Send the email to FrumessMAIL. Send the answer to FrumessMAIL@gmail.com. The first time-stamped, whatever. I explained it already. I'm not going to go through with it again. Here is, I've never done a contest like that before, so we'll see how it all goes. Here is our Riot Stickers advertisement.
Posters and promo cards, there's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats, we can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. We are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
All right, RiotStickers.com. We are back now. We are sort of overcome with this next episode what I mean to say is this next episode is really, really intense. It's brutal. It is freaking brutal. And it involves a stripper from Bada Bing, named Tracy. Basically on the Meadow and Noah front at this point in the season, they are like really getting sick and tired of Caitlin, the roommate, who's turning out to be really neurotic. She pulls her hair out and she has anxiety. And Noah is just like so fed up. He's sort of like really bummed out that she's too negative, all this stuff. And we're starting to see, Noah goes from being a good guy, who, by the way, totally punches Meadows' V card, and starts to become just the little insufferable prick that he always was under the surface. And I don't know. He gets like super upset over a C-. It's like so not a big deal. So anyway, about this stripper named Tracy, she is Ralphie's girlfriend, who he knocks her up, right? And she is really, really, really sort of gravitating towards Tony. I was like trying to figure that out. Why is she so like gravitating towards Tony? Is it because he's the boss? Is it because she thinks maybe if I start dating Tony, then Ralphie will leave me alone? Something like that. I don't know. Something like that. Like how can I get away from Ralphie, this monster? But Ralphie knocks her up. And it's not looking good. We also see, this is when Ralphie really just becomes like just an insufferable prick himself, in a different way from Noah. He won't stop quoting Gladiator. You see how sadistic he is. He almost takes out the Georgie, the bouncer. He almost takes out his eye using this length of chain. The girl Tracy, she just continuously reaches out to Tony, and Tony, who has an opportunity to help her, does not. She's asking for advice. I'm pregnant. Should I keep it? And Tony's like, she should get rid of the child immediately because Ralphie is a maniac, and everybody else is just getting super annoyed by Ralphie, and they can't really do nothing about it because he's a made guy. Eventually Tracy misses work for 3 days, And, she pretends that she's sick and she's hanging out with Ralph, who's sort of indifferent to her, but knows that she's pregnant and promises to take care of her or whatever. And that's when Silvio, we see how nasty of a human being Silvio always was, but we just never got it. We never saw it until this moment when Silvio, who is juicing her for her braces, meaning like he's charging her interest. He paid $3,000 for her to get braces to fix her teeth. And she's basically become his indentured servant, his slave. She's like basically his slave at the club, and that she needs to earn for Silvio so that he can get his investment back. And Silvio, I mean, he beats her. He actually beats her. Ralphie laughs. She's pregnant. This is a pregnant girl, 20-year-old girl. I mean, this is just like, this episode is so horrible and demoralizing. And you would think that, and once again, it shows us how evil Tony really is, because you would think that Tony would look at her and then look at his own daughter, Meadow, and not want to help her in her terrible situation. In any case, it ends in the worst possible way. She gets into a fight with Ralphie, and Ralphie beats her to death. He beats her to death and kills her. He kills her and her unborn child that is Ralphie's. Vaughn, I have to disagree, man. Silvio is evil. The reason why Silvio is evil is because he punched her in the face. I mean, he laid his hands on this 20-year-old pregnant girl. I mean, he's evil for a lot more than that, but like that's the line, dude. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, we're so confused. We think, oh yeah, Silvio's a good guy. Silvio's a woman beater. He's a woman beater. And he essentially he's juicing a 20-year-old girl for her braces. That's evil, dude. I'm sorry. There's no way around it, man. It's horrible. And she dies, and they have to make her disappear. Tony beats the ever living piss out of Ralphie, which is bad because Ralphie's a made guy. You can't do that to a made guy. But this is when, Ralphie gets passed over for captain. And it's bad, man. The whole thing, it's a bad friggin' scene. Meanwhile, Chris and Paulie, tensions are at an all-time high between them. Paulie, they're doing this thing. Chris is part of the thing about being a new guy. Oh, he did. Oh no. He watched the episode again. For a guy who watched it 3 times, I'm telling you, Silvio, I just watched it, dude. Silvio knocks her around, man. And to me, you are a bad guy if you knock a girl around. I mean, there's a lot, you have to do a lot less to be a bad guy, but that is like, I mean, that's fucking evil, dude. He's an evil friggin' dude, to do what he does to her. In any case, there's this whole thing. If you're a new made guy, then you're able to be strip searched at any time to make sure you don't have a wire. And so Paulie is just endlessly just breaking Chris's balls. He's, Chris gets like merch, like shoes and stuff, and Paulie takes the shoes. There's a scene where Paulie sniffs Adriana's panties. It's bad, man. He's getting on it. He's just riding him, and Chris really can't take it. And eventually, it all boils over between them, and they have a really touching episode where they really sort of bond in the Pine Barrens, which is a very famous Sopranos episode. Carmela runs into Angie, who's Pussy's widow now, though maybe she doesn't know it. And that's when Carm finds out that Tony's been helping her financially. But it's kind of bullshit. She's claiming she needs operation for her poodle, but she's driving she's driving a Cadillac, which when Tony finds out, he just breaks the Cadillac and warns her. He's like, listen, I'm going to cut you off if you don't use this money in the right kind of way, that sort of thing. Junior ends up having surgery, and he gets a second opinion about his about the cancer that he has, and he is enamored by this doctor whose name is John Kennedy, like JFK. Junior loves JFK, and everything works out. They kind of use like reverse psychology with the doctor to like make Junior like chill out a little bit because he's like losing his mind. Carm, she ends up meeting with a dean from Columbia, and because they want the Sopranos to contribute money to the school. It's kind of, I don't know, kind of doesn't really go anywhere. Carm does have a session with Melfi solo when Tony doesn't want to go, and she starts to really peel back the layers a little bit herself. It's like it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I just had a total brain fart there. Geez Louise. This is what happens when you don't when you go a long time. I mean, they have to really do this when this is fresh. That's part of the problem. So anyway, Carm and Rosalie, they are starting to really get stoked when they realize, because Noah breaks up with Meadow, which is a relief because Noah's a piece of shit by the end. We meet his dad. His dad's a douchebag too. And then Jackie and Meadow, things start getting hot and heavy. Meadow takes ecstasy. We see that Jackie is a good guy to Meadow in that, things are getting hot and heavy, and then she passes out and Jackie doesn't try and take advantage of her. He respects her and her body. And it's like, I guess the scene is to show us that he's a good friggin' dude, unlike Silvio, who beats women. Well, at least now he's a good dude. Cause Jackie, I don't know, Jackie falls pretty hard, later on. He does some pretty, unforgivable things, on his own. But with Meadow, he's really sweet. Another night, Meadow wrecks his car and he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the car. He's just glad that she is okay. And not because her dad is Tony Soprano either. It's because she friggin', he cares about her. We also meet Gloria Trillo, who is she is so breathtakingly beautiful, a beautiful Italian woman. There's something about like the look of an Italian woman, just like the dark features, just oh my God, she's intoxicating. And the moment that Tony, and that's the thing about Tony's just like, he's a bear, dude. He's like this big oafish bear. And he pulls these chicks, even when they don't know who he is. He somehow is always pulling these broads, man. Vaughn says, but that's the thing I'm saying about Sil. Yeah, he's evil, but he seems to separate that evil business and personal better than other characters. He doesn't go off the handle on people. He's pretty clear-headed. Like, I can't agree with you only because she is. I can't agree with you only because he beats women. If you beat women, you're a bad dude. Straight up. It's like, it's super black and white. If you lay your hand to a woman, it doesn't matter whether it's business or personal. The fact that Silvio laid a hand on a girl that's almost his daughter's age is unconscionable. I mean, on any women, but like the fact that he has a daughter her age and that he beat her because she owes him money for braces. I mean, what the fuck? I can't agree with you there. Yeah. In terms of Gloria is beautiful, but toxic. That's part of the problem, Vaughn, that he's the lesser of evils in the show, but that's part of the problem in that friggin', we are like letting go of slighter evil because there are people that are just way more evil, that kind of thing, I guess. Not arguing that he's evil. Okay. So we are in agreement on that. In any case, Tony meets Gloria, and my God, I mean, I was like betwixt by her beauty. I was just like sitting there, like jaw hanging open. That is just like, she's got to be like early 40s. She's like mid early 40s. And she's just a the perfect specimen of like mature feminine beauty, like unbound. You know what I mean? And of course, they end up, he goes down to her dealership. She's a car salesman. He goes down to her dealership. They end up banging on the Stugats. Hey, let's go to the Stugats. Okay, let's go do that. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Forget it. Ralphie and Tony try to patch things up using Johnny Sack as telephone. We get a bunch of like, childish sort of mafia games. Tony barely acknowledges Ralphie when he approaches his table at Vesuvio. It's like a power move. It goes back and forth. But what eventually happens that screws everything up is Gigi, who was made captain of Richie April's crew, the April crew. He dies of a heart attack right on the John. And that leaves Tony. Tony looks at Vito. He looks at all the guys in the gang, and he's like, the only person who's a great earner, by the way, is Richie. I mean, not Richie, Ralphie. He's got to go with Ralphie. And so he begrudgingly does. And, it's a problem. It will be a problem later on somewhat. I mean, but they end up making a lot of money as a result. AJ gets into some trouble vandalizing his school. And, again, AJ is so on the periphery. I remember him being a lot more involved in the show. Maybe he gets more involved a little bit later. Tony gives Carmela a ring and she loves it. And she's wondering if there's anything that he needs to tell her. And he's like kind of shrugs his shoulders. Tony is enamored with Gloria, and they get into they have such a passionate liaison. I don't know what else you would call it. Dalliance or whatever. They go to the zoo. They fuck at the zoo. She knows that he's in, she finds his gun and she knows that he's part of the mob. And, Melfi's concerned because she is someone who has tried to unalive herself in the past, and she's got chemical imbalances, and she keeps kind of subtly warning Tony, this is not, she's unstable. And we learn at the very beginning of at least maybe the previous episode that, she's just goes through all these different relationships. How do you vandalize the pool? You know what's funny? When I was watching that whole vandalizing the pool thing, I did a lot of stuff like that when I was in high school. I did stuff like that. I'm not proud of it now. If I could go back in time and I would kick my own ass, that sort of thing. But when I was watching all that, I kind of had a smile on my face because I just remember what it was to be a kid before the internet, right? Before the internet, hanging out with girls, nothing to do, just looking to have fun and blow off steam and just doing really irrehensible shit. If my son ever did anything like that, I would friggin', oh my God, it would be over. I would be so upset. So it's just weird how things change. And it was a reminder. Seeing that was a reminder. And I kind of really enjoyed that whole thing with AJ. Tony also ends up, Melfi eventually, we learn from Melfi meeting with Gloria. Gloria does not, Tony eventually tells Melfi that he is seeing Gloria. And I thought Melfi would kind of fly off the handle about it, that she'd be a lot more upset than she was. She wasn't. She kind of was okay with it, or she kind of was indifferent to it, or she didn't really make a big deal about it. I would imagine she would have given one of her, sort of lectures about why that was so inappropriate and you guys can't be doing that, but she doesn't. It's kind of nothing, not nothing, but she's she just sort of she doesn't make a big deal about it. But we learn in her session with Gloria that she tried to unalive herself when her last relationship failed, we call this a Chekhov's gun. When you bring up details like that, they are going to circle around. So anytime you're watching a show and they show you something, anything you see or hear is always going to be significant. Here's a perfect example of that. That's what is going to happen. Tony ends up giving Melfi extra money, and she tries to refuse, but she ends up not charging Tony the next month. Like, that's just showing what kind of person Melfi is, like trying to be unscrutinizing in her whatchamacallit, in her morals, I guess. Carmela starts to warm up to the idea of Jackie Jr. being involved with Meadow. And, you know, he's bonding with AJ, and he's around the house mentoring him and shit. And, you know, Tony has a heart to heart with Jackie about, you know, his schoolwork, and eventually finds him at an illegal casino and gets really pissed at him. And, you know, if you're going to be, you know, hanging out with my daughter, I will, I want the best for you. And that doesn't work because, you know, eventually Jackie, he's getting lap dances. He's got like all this stuff is happening. He's slowly going off the deep end. And, there's nothing that anybody can do to sort of stop it. Christopher gives Adriana a nightclub that she renames the Crazy Horse. And, Jackie's guy, Matouche, he starts dealing ecstasy and he gets thrown out. And, you know, this is when Jackie tries to like basically flex that he's Jackie Jr. And, you know, because he used to know Chris, he's trying to like smooth everything over. And, Jackie gets reassurance from Ralphie, when he's given a gun, and sort of like, you know, because of his connection with Ralphie, Jackie has this kind of confidence that he can, you know, continue to play mobster, even though he's not a made guy. It may be in hopes of one day becoming a made guy. Who knows? So then we get this whole flashback with Sal, Big Pussy. And, you know, they go back to the year 1995, and this is like the guys, they're just reveling in the fact they realize they realized exactly when Big Pussy was compromised, and they start to revel in this. They start to revel in this fact, and I don't know. It turns into a whole friggin' thing. Tony also kind of like gets a little bit of retribution over what happened with Janice getting roughed up by the Russian mob. Kind of doesn't really go anywhere. They do this whole Santa Claus thing at the Bada Bing. They have Bobby. They have Bobby Jr. Bobby, what's his face? Baklava or whatever. He ends up becoming the new Santa, taking over for Big Pussy. This is also a shocking scene when Tony finds out that Tony finds Jackie Jr. getting a lap dance from a stripper, and he finds out that he's flunked out of Rutgers, and that's when he beats the crap out of him. And it's a whole thing. It is a whole thing. Then the next episode, this is a classic episode. So, you know, the best episodes are the simple ones, the simple plots. It's basically Chris and it's Paulie Walnuts collecting for Silvio, and they end up whacking a guy who turns out to be a sort of a whatchamacallit. He's like he used to be special ops in Russia or whatever. They're going to dump his body in the Pine Barrens because one thing leads to another, and they end up killing the guy, or they think they kill the guy, but they don't. And like I said, the whole thing just turns into this whole like cat and mouse chase in the woods. And it just ensues into hilarity. It really is. It's one of the great episodes of The Sopranos. They're eating ketchup packets and mixing it with relish because they're trapped in this van, and Paulie loses one of his shoes. We find out that Bobby is an amateur outdoorsman. This is The Sopranos at its best, if you ask me. And it also, I mean, this is a prime example of The Sopranos as a, whatchamacallit. This is The Sopranos as like Curb Your Enthusiasm, that sort of thing. We never really find out what happens to the Russian guy. But the creators were asked, and this is what David Chase had to say. They shot a guy. Who knows where he went? Who cares about some Russian? This is what Hollywood has done to America. Do you have to have closure on every little thing? Isn't there a mystery left in the world? It's a murky world out there. It's a murky life that these guys lead. And by the way, I do know where the Russian guy is, but I'll never say because people might get so pissy about it. So that's kind of interesting. So they just leave it very ambiguous. Yeah. You're never going to believe this. This guy is an interior decorator. It's so great. He's what he's meant to say is that he worked for the interior, and he goes, he's an interior decorator who killed a platoon of Chechens. It's so great, man. It really is. It's just spectacular. It's a spectacular episode, man. Pine Barrens really deserves like an Emmy, man. Eventually, Carm thinks that she has ovarian cancer, and that's like a whole thing. Gloria starts to really unravel. She gets super jealous. She starts, like flipping on Tony every other second. And Tony has a lot of patience for her. But eventually, when Gloria accidentally meets Carm is when Tony starts to really lose his mind, like over the whole thing. She starts really toying with their relationship, with Carm and Tony's relationship, and threatening to tell Tony about Carm. And what Melfi and Tony realize is that she has a death wish, and she's trying to use Tony as a means. It's like she sees herself as a nail and she sees Tony as a hammer, and it's like really sad. And it ends with, he breaks it off. He breaks it off with her, and Tony has Patsy whip a gun out at her and say, if you ever approach or call, Carm or anybody ever again, that she'll be gone. She'll be whacked. And it's really sad what happens to her. We find out in the next season that she does in fact unalive herself. It's very, very sad. I really loved Gloria. She had this energy, this fiery energy, passion about her that was just so, oof. Yes, I know you're talking about Valentina, and Valentina once again. And I looked up, I was like, because all of these girls kind of have a similar look. What's interesting? The girl who plays Gloria is Italian. The girl who plays Valentina is 100% Jewish. She's Sephardic Jewish, man. Her dad is Sephardic and her mom is Russian Jew. So she's Ashkenazi and Sephardic. And boy, does she have a look to her. Talk about fiery. Another example, just a fiery. I don't usually lust after women publicly on my channel, but like there's just something about these. Oh God. Oof. Just do something to me, man. I can't explain what, but and they all go to Tony, man. Listen, if a guy like Tony, listen, I'm a happily married man, but you know what I mean. If a guy like Tony can, clean it up like that, I guess maybe there is hope for, people of his, shape and size, out there. I don't know. Maybe it has to do, Tony kind of emanates this energy, this energy like that. Maybe that's what the women are attracted to. It doesn't matter what he looks like, I don't know. Who friggin' knows? This is actually a really sad episode, tragic episode, I should say. This is tragic too, in that besides breaking it off with Gloria, Jackie Jr. learns from Ralphie that Tony was a part of the way Tony garnered a lot of respect and moved up in the underground world was that he robbed a very popular card game. He robbed a made man's card game. And Ralphie just talks about how legendary it was and how Tony had the balls to do it. And basically Jackie Jr. gets together with his friends Carlo and Dino, and they decide they're going to rob this guy Eugene's poker game. After, Ralphie had told them this whole story about how Tony, and it was also Jackie's father too. It was Jackie April Sr. How the two guys, they got a lot of recognition for robbing a poker game. There's this dealer, his name is Sunshine, and he keeps antagonizing these guys. They go in there to rob the thing. They have a wheelman outside, and he takes off, of course. Jackie ends up killing the dealer, though, and that starts a firefight. Furio gets shot. I mean, it just turns into a whole mess. They robbed they just robbed everybody. Or they tried to rob everybody. Matouche, he's the wheelman. He takes off. And basically, I think Carlo's the one that's at the mercy of Albert and Christopher. Jackie ends up jacking a car and leaves. Sorry, it's Dino. Dino's the one. Jackie leaves Dino behind, and Dino is murdered by Chris. After that, they're trying to figure out, Tony meets with Ralphie. They're like trying to figure out how to deal with Jackie Jr. And Tony says, look, Ralphie, you're responsible. You decide what to do, because on one hand, it's grounds for whacking the kid. On the other hand, it's Jackie Jr. is his father was Tony Soprano's best friend. So they're not sure what to do. Ralphie blames Jackie Sr. for spoiling his son, and he wants to give Jackie a pass initially. But then at the end of the day, it's Ralphie who makes he's the one who makes the order. He orders the hit, right? AJ gets expelled from school over, he cheats on a test, and he thinks that people can trace him by tracing his DNA through his urine. It's ridiculous. This is when, right, I have this all confused. This is when we meet Deborah for the first time. Debbie is basically sent in by the FBI to befriend Adriana. And these are the seeds that will seal Adriana's doom eventually at the hands of Silvio, which I remember from because her death was one of the most brutal deaths in the whole thing. I mean, obviously this girl, we just talked about Tracy, who was beaten to death by Ralphie, but Adriana's death was so fucking brutal, dude. Paulie is really upset at Ralphie over and demands a sit down. A sit down is where it's like a mediation between two made guys, and he wants $50,000 over this robbery. Jackie Jr. is on the run after his hit, and he's hiding in a housing project. And he calls Tony begging him for help, and Tony refuses to help him. And, Tony thinks confidently that Ralphie is going to know what to do. And he, tells him, you need to figure this out. And Ralphie makes a decision, the worst kind of decision. He basically arranges for Jackie to be whacked. Mind you, he's with Jackie's mother, Rosalie. I mean, it's insane. So Rosalie loses her brother-in-law, her husband, and her son in such a short time. The Aprils, and then when you consider that Adriana is an April because she's the niece, her cousin is Jackie Jr., the April family gets wiped out in this whole show. They all get wiped out. Vito is the one who ends up whacking Jackie Jr., which is insane when you think that Vito was in Jackie Sr.'s crew. What an insane thing. You friggin' whacked the son. I mean, just so cold, so friggin' cold. Meadow is just absolutely distraught. Everybody's really insensitive at the wake. They're discussing the Super Bowl. It's sad, dude. Rosalie, I really felt for Rosalie. They're trying to figure out who killed Jackie. It's just the whole friggin' thing is sad, man. I don't know. Ralphie breaks up with Rosalie, just sealing how much of a jerk he is. And that's when he starts to get hot and heavy with Janice, of course. And, Junior, the whole episode ends with Junior singing these Italian ballads. And Meadow is she's had it with everybody, and she walks out, and that's kind of the end. The episode kind of fizzles out like that. And that's where season 3 leaves us, and we will be back for season 4. I feel like Tony knows exactly what to do, but he puts it on Ralphie to do it so that he can have a clear mind about it. I don't know, man. I thought about that too. I can't decide if that's going on. They have made it incredibly ambiguous. I mean, obviously it's Ralphie who does it, but in terms of like motivations, like we know that how motivated Ralphie was, but Tony's motivations are left more ambiguous on purpose, I feel. And that brings us to the end of our show. And like I said, we are doing the trivia. We have the trivia game, right? The trivia. So let me repeat back to you the trivia rules one more time. I'm going to be doing a live show every single day. I'm going to be giving away a t-shirt. At the end of every episode, I will ask my trivia question. You will send your answer to FrumessMAIL@gmail.com, and the first person to answer correctly will be the winner. You give me your name, your address, and your t-shirt size. If you are outside of the continental United States, you will have to cover shipping and handling. Join us night after night where I will be doing t-shirt giveaways. Who doesn't like a free t-shirt? I'm not going to go easy on any of you. I'm going to ask really hard questions. So be prepared. All right. Are you ready for the question? Now, I said I was going to go really hard, and I plan to go really hard, but I'm going to start off with a little bit of a soft one. Remember, go to FrumessMAIL@gmail.com and leave me your answer. Okay, here is my trivia question. What is the first compilation by the band The Misfits? The first compilation. What is the name of it? What year did it come? No, I won't give you the whole thing. What is the name of the first compilation by the Misfits? That's it. That is the question. So write in your answers. What is the first compilation by the band The Misfits? The one starring Glenn Danzig. Happy birthday to Uncle Glenn today. But Glenn Danzig, Jerry Only, that band. That's the band I'm talking about. What is the Misfits' first compilation? What is a compilation? It's a release. It's a release of collected songs, not, that maybe had previously come out. Okay. So that is the question. Right into FrumessMAIL@gmail.com. I may not answer right away. All you got to do is just send me an email, FrumessMAIL@gmail.com. That's the end of our episode. Thanks, folks. Peace, hair grease. We will see you again with another episode of whatever this is on the Frumess channel. We'll be back with season 4 too. So